Hey, welcome into the Main Street Maury High School Football Preview Show for Week 7. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Chris Yao. Chris, we are, I guess, officially in the second half or the third, depending on whether you count the postseason or not.
Yeah. I guess football season doesn't end until we're in Chattanooga, but it does end for a lot of folks before then.
Unfortunately.
Hopefully it will not end for us before then. That would be great.
I'd like to get back to Chattanooga.
And but yeah, it is that time of year. The weather is starting to get a little cooler. The lighting is starting to get a little worse if you're a photographer because the sun is going down a little earlier. But
you're not getting those nice sunsets right to kick off like you were. So
no, it's kind of rough sometimes when you're out there trying to take pictures and the lighting is not perfect at high school football stadiums across the world. So
but you know what though? People don't want to hear about the labor.
They don't.
They just want to see the baby.
They just want to see the baby, and so we won't go harp too much on the labor pains. But it is that time of year, man. I'm so excited that might have to wear a light jacket.
The perfect date.
It's the perfect date.
Oh, we got 8 games this week. Let us tell you about the first 4 we want to talk about here. Starting off in Division 2A Middle Region play, Clarksville Academy visits Columbia Academy. The Bulldogs coming off of a 55-point explosion to celebrate homecoming by visiting Ezo Harding last weekend.
This Columbia Academy team has been kind of up and down, sometimes in the same game. But right now they're up, and it's a lot of that has to do with, of course, Monte Baldwin. But as you mentioned, Connor Rawson and CJ DeRoe, you had mentioned those two guys on the wrap-up show that we do for Main Street Preps. And, if they've got the ability to run the ball and throw the ball, they're going to be really difficult to deal with. And this Columbia Academy team is kind of finding their stride at the right part of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they scored 55 again last week against Ezo Harding. They scored 42 the week before that against a really good Donaldson Christian team that we're going to talk more about later. But meanwhile, Clarksville Academy has been outscored by about 5 touchdowns in each of their last 3 games. So the Cougars struggling a little bit. Yeah,
and this has been an unfortunate year for them, coming off of a couple of pretty decent years where they had a couple of Mr. Basketball finalists playing
DJ
football.
Merriweather, yeah.
But they had some really good athletes the last couple of years, and that they just haven't had the same level of athleticism this year. So it has been tough for Clarksville Academy, and this is actually the second year in a row they'll be coming to Columbia. They came here last year as well. So unusual.
That is a little unusual.
In that sense. But, I think Columbia Academy is going to remember last year and how crushing that defeat was, because it knocked them out of the playoff race.
Yeah.
And they'll be wanting to get a little revenge.
Yeah, and they're on a little bit of a roll right now, like you said. Speaking of Donaldson Christian, the Wildcats go down 43 to take on a Mount Pleasant team that was undefeated this time last week.
Yeah, I'm not sure, obviously Donaldson Christian's been really good this year, but I'm not sure where you want to be if you are coming to Mount Pleasant is facing a Tiger team with feeling it a little bit, and maybe reeling from that loss last week. They know they did some things that they have to clean up, and I'm sure that this week in practice has probably been very intense. And here's the thing, in a game like this, which for both teams, it's a non-region game, you're either going to see them throw everything at you with no regard, because it doesn't matter if you mess up and lose, or one team maybe goes vanilla and doesn't want to put anything on film extra. So I'm always interested in these mid-year non-region games, because you never know what you're going to get. But both of these teams are very talented, and I think it's going to be a great football game.
Absolutely. Donaldson Christian, again, bounced back from that 42-30 loss at home to Columbia Academy a couple of weeks ago with a 54-0 win against Mount Juliet Christian in D2A Middle Region play. Again, Mount Pleasant lost their first game of the year down at or over at Lewis County, 43-14. The one bit of excitement for Mount Pleasant, as is so often the case for them, Darian Mesa.
Don't kick to Darian Mesa.
I don't know that they were trying to.
He just went and got it.
Well, here's the deal. Here's what happened. I remember now. They kicked the ball out of bounds, and Kid Hartsfield made them kick it again.
As he should.
When you got that guy,
you always make them kick it again.
always make them kick it
Because they
again.
might
When you
just
got
keep it in
21
bounds.
and catching it. Yeah. 85 yards, and he's banging his head off the goalpost. You know? So, and he's a threat to do that any night out. So this should be a fun matchup. I think DCA is going to throw it around a little bit. That's what they did against CA anyway. So we'll see how Mount Pleasant's defense responds. In Region 5 2A play, East Hickman is at Loretto. The Mustangs still undefeated at 6-0 overall, 4-0 in league play.
Gosh, they're so good.
And here's the thing. Again, they lost Carter Daniel in that Summertown game that you were at about 3 weeks ago, I guess. Well, Mason Tidwell, in his 2 starts, has thrown for 453 yards and 5 touchdowns.
And has been just as good as we said he would be on this show. We told you, don't sleep on Mason Tidwell. We tried to tell you. We're going to continue to tell you. Kid's good.
And
they've got so many athletes around.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't hurt a quarterback in an offense that throws the ball when you've got guys like Corbin Reynolds, Clint Seymour, and Jack Welch.
And again, you got to keep him upright. You got to give him time, especially for a young kid. You want him to be able to make those decisions without being pressured. He's not been affected much, even against Lewis County. And then you've got the running backs that take the pressure off when you've got to pay attention to those guys. It makes a difference.
McDowell and Stoltz do a really good job back there. McDowell more so here of late, but yeah, they've got a couple of threats in their running game on top of that passing attack that they boast. So should be an interesting Region 5 2A matchup there.
Yeah. And here's the thing, we undefeated Loretto, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but they've still got Waverly and Mount Pleasant to play. So they are, they as good as they've been, they've still got a lot of football ahead of them. And I think they know that. And so each and every week they're coming out.
They're trying to stack wins.
Right. They're coming out with a purpose each week to get better, knowing that they've got to play Waverly on the road. They've got to go to Mount Pleasant, and those are going to be tough environments. So I think that's important.
Region 5 5A action, a couple of teams coming off of victories last week. Lawrence County 3-3 overall, 2-1 in the league, goes to Tullahoma 4-2, 2-1. Wildcats are going to win this one.
Yes, they are. Will it be the County Cats or the City Cats?
Oh, yeah. There you go.
That is the question that we will have to answer on Friday.
Absolutely. Lawrence County coming off of, I was surprised at the ease with which they took care of Spring Hill, 35-12. Now, you were there.
I don't know that it was easy necessarily. They obviously played well on offense, but they were up against the wall defensively inside the 10-yard line 4 times. Now, their defense bend and did not break. 3 of those times, they did not allow a single point to Spring Hill, and I think that's important to note. The offense, meanwhile, Ian Clayton is great, but Isaiah, what's his last name? Isaiah Bentley was back first time in 3 weeks. Huge difference maker on that offense because he's kind of a bruiser to go along with Clayton and Tay Everly. So when you've got 24 back there, they're tough to beat offensively, and I think that makes a huge difference in this game. And their defense, obviously stepping up to make plays is huge.
Well, I think they're going to have to be able to run the ball against Tullahoma because, one, they don't throw it very well, and two, they got to keep it away from Tullahoma, who scored 34 in a 20-point win over Columbia Central last week in Tullahoma.
Yeah, absolutely. Tullahoma it just blows my mind that, they weren't able to beat Franklin County, because you think, man, this Tullahoma team, after such a tough year last year, you weren't going to keep Tullahoma down. Mm-hmm. So obviously took advantage of a lot of mistakes that Columbia Central made. And so you got to keep the mistakes to a minimum. If Lawrence County can do that, who knows? This could be a really good football game.
No doubt. Halfway through our slate for week 7. When we come back, we'll go through the other half. And at the end of the show, of course, Chris and I will give you our picks. So stay tuned.
He shoots and he scores!
Since 1975, Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic has treated the orthopedic needs of Middle Tennessee residents. The trained physicians provide surgical options and minimally invasive options to treat all orthopedic needs. The walk-in clinic, OrthoQuick, helps you bypass the ER while treating sports injuries and acute needs Monday through Saturday. Visit MTBJ online at mtbj.net or on social media at Mid-Tennessee Bone Joint Clinic.
Welcome back to the Main Street Maury High School Football Preview Show for Week 7. That's Chris Yao. I'm Maurice Patton. We've gone through the first half of this week's schedule. In Region 6A play Friday night, Independence hosts Overton. And the Bobcats coming in with one victory thus far. They defeated McGavock in Week 4. Independence coming off of a tough loss to Ravenwood, a field goal at the end of the game, downs them 16-14 after, no, not right after, because they went up to Beach and won 28-7 in Week 5. Before that, they had a string of 3 consecutive overtime affairs. So this team has been tested.
There's no question they've been tested in a couple of heartbreaking losses. That overtime loss to Centennial in Week 3, and then, of course, last week, they're winning 14-13 with Ravenwood, who has the football. A stop wins the game, and Ravenwood just made the extra plays. And look, we talked about it on the show. I picked Independence to win that game, and I thought it clearly was a toss-up. I mean, I think that Independence really showed that they have the ability to be a factor in this region, even currently sitting at 1-1 in the region. I think they've still got their best football ahead of them. They've got Overton this week, and then got Brentwood and Summit, to end the year. They've got a chance to be in this. So my thought is Independence is going to get some things right this week, and that's what they're going to use this game for.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got a first-year starter quarterback, we had Scott Stidham on the show, Main Street Sports Today, last week, and got a first-year quarterback in Luke McNeely, who's continuing to grow into that role. And I think every game he plays is going to help him be better. So
I would agree with that, and especially, in a contest where, again, Overton has struggled this year. This is a chance for him to get some confidence in not just himself, but in his receivers. Mm-hmm. And that's important. I mean, you obviously want to be able to trust your guys. And over the next couple of weeks, obviously Overton this week and then a non-region game next week, they've got an opportunity to do that.
Region 5A play. Spring Hill is at Columbia Central. Yeah, whether it's a region game or not, this one means something to a lot of folks. Spring Hill coming in at 2-4 overall, 0-2 after that tough loss to Lawrence County last week. Again, Columbia Central coming in at 3-3, 1-2 after losing over at Tullahoma. I think both of these teams would probably tell you that they're better than their records indicate.
No question. Here's a stat for you. Spring Hill is 0-4 at home. They're 2-0 on the road.
That's a stat that some people in purple should probably be
taking note of.
Yes.
I mean, and not necessarily your purple, a little darker.
A little dark.
So,
little darker.
but yeah, this is more
of a laugh.
These two teams, when they play each other, it's personal. And not to take a Deion Sanders approach, but it is. I mean, these kids they've played middle school ball, some of them together,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly against one another. They've grown up, in the same environments. They've grown.
And, as we said about Mount Pleasant and Summertown a couple of weeks ago, they go to the same Sonic.
They shop at the same places.
Yeah.
They eat at the same places. Social media in Maury County. I mean, it's they're in the trenches out here. Both student sections have been having a good time. This is a huge game for Columbia Central because they're welcoming back a lot of alumni for this one, and Tony and Gina Wolf of McDonald's will be the honorary captains in this one. So, I mean, this is a big game in Maury County because it's the two biggest schools. So, of course, it means something. And, by the way, it's a region game.
Spring Hill has lost the last 16 times these two teams have met.
In their defense, they've been the smaller school 15 of those times. Mm-hmm. And also in their defense, 3 years ago, if the game doesn't get rained out
and finished on
Sunday, they might have won that one. But I mean, look, two things. One, you got to hope the Alan Alderson can get healthy and be available in this one. If he is, I think that's a big deal. Spring Hill was able to get the edge on Lawrence County. Obviously, Lawrence County is less athletic than Columbia Central. We saw that 2 weeks ago. There's no denying that. Columbia Central's got athletes on the edge. If Spring Hill can attack the edge with the quarterback counter and running off tackle the way that they were able to on Friday night against Lawrence County, and then stick with it instead of going to something else when they get inside the red zone, I think that this could be a really interesting football game.
Now, the thing is, to be able to stick with that, they also have to keep the game close.
They do. And that entails tackling Caden McCoy. And Spring Hill struggled tackling Tay Everly last week, which means they probably will struggle tackling Caden McCoy because that kid's really, really good. First start of the season, new quarterback for Columbia Central this week. Burton Smith will start at quarterback, and that could cause some issues. I mean, how much confidence does he have in his receivers? How much chemistry is there between he and McCoy? What if they go the wrong way? You just never know. And by the way, they got to figure out how to snap the ball to the punter if they're going to kick it. Because 3 times last week they had blocked punts, bad snaps, whatever on special teams. I think that's a big deal.
Summertown travels to Waverly in Region 5 2A. The Eagles 0-6, 0-4. The Tigers 4-1, 2-1. Summertown led Harpeth late last week, 25-20, before Harpeth scored a couple of touchdowns in a 33-25 victory to keep. Harpeth scored twice late. Did I say Summertown?
No, maybe. I don't know.
Harpeth scored twice late to win that game, 33-25.
Yeah, and we talked about Harpeth needing something to go their way.
Yeah, was hoping it wouldn't necessarily be against Summertown, but
And it was interesting because when I heard the score at 25-7, I thought Harpeth is still like, what's going on?
right.
Like, because you felt like a team that played Mount Pleasant close and played Waverly close should probably beat a team that was 0-5 going into that game pretty well. Summertown came out and said, not so fast, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this may have been, I'm not sure if this is what I said, but last week on the show, but I think depth probably played a factor.
Early on, Summertown was able to get some offense in the form, particularly of receiver Ty Bryant, who caught a couple of touchdown passes, finished with 114 receiving yards on 3 catches. Also, Logan Love rushed for 97 yards in that win. Just to watch the way that game played out, it would seem that maybe depth, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, was the determining factor there. So maybe they can get up on Waverly and hang on. But again,
depth is going to be an issue at Summertown for a while.
Yeah. Again, Waverly with that 22-21 win at Harpeth a couple of weeks ago, and then defeated East Hickman 28-14 last week. So not exactly what we've been used to out of Waverly here of late.
No, they've not been winning big, but they've been winning.
But they've
4-1.
Exactly. Finally, Region 6A play. Summit, coming off of a 13-7 win over Franklin, goes to Ravenwood. We talked about Ravenwood in that 16-14 win at Independence last weekend. The Raptors have not lost since their season opener against Alcoa. 2-0 in league play. Summit 2-4 overall, 1-1 in 6A.
But Summit has been keeping the games close.
They have been keeping the games close, and a lot of that has been behind junior quarterback Mason McElhaney, who rushed for 270 yards and scored both touchdowns in that Franklin win. And here's the thing to me about Summit. Defenses are going to become more and more and more preoccupied with Mason McElhaney, and at some point, Dominic Hollis is going to take a game over.
Well, we've been talking about him since he was a sophomore, and he's never had that dominant game, but I think a lot of that has been the youth of their offensive line. They've not had an offensive line that's been able to dominate like we saw a couple of years ago in those state title game runs. So I believe that this offensive line is a little bit better. They're a little more seasoned, and when, like you said, when they have someone else to pay attention to, Hollis gets a little less attention, and next thing you know, he's breaking a game open, and I think he certainly could. Now, Ravenwood is a really good football team. We saw that last week against Independence, but how much of what Independence did on defense is going to be a playbook for other region opponents? That's the question.
Yeah,
because they clearly did well.
Obviously, Carter Pace is kind of the straw that stirs the drink at running back for the Raptors. He's a consistent pounder, physical bruiser, as you mentioned, with Lawrence County's Isaiah Bentley, and they really kind of play off of him. So that'll be interesting to watch. When we come back, as mentioned, Chris and I will both give you our picks.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Mockingbird Title and Escrow is an attorney-owned and operated full-service title company in Middle Tennessee. We get your deals closed without worry and fuss. We're a family business that offers the highest level of expertise in our industry when it comes to closing and funding your real estate transactions.
And it's a job I really love. I'm passionate about this. I'm enthusiastic about this. I like to think we're pretty well rounded and can deal with a wide range of needs and a wide range of clients.
Call 615-274-8698 today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Welcome back to the Main Street Maury High School Football Preview Show for Week 7. Chris, you ready to make some picks?
Let's do it.
Clarksville Academy is at Columbia Academy.
Yeah, I don't think this one's going to be any tougher than last week for the Bulldogs. I've got them in this one big.
Yeah, I think like you said, that offense is continuing to emerge and take shape, and they're fun to watch when they're going the way they have been the last couple of weeks, but I think they take care of business at home against Clarksville Academy. Donaldson Christian at Mount Pleasant.
Well, I don't know if you've seen our Main Street Preps staff pick 'em. This game is in it, of course, but I did make my pick today and went against you. I've got Mount Pleasant. Here's why. Donaldson Christian struggled against Columbia Academy with Monte Baldwin and with Connor Rawson. I think that Darian Meza, Jakari McClure, I think that offense is just as good as Columbia Academy's. It's just going to be a matter of really who scores the most.
I took Donaldson Christian for two reasons. One, Mount Pleasant has some offensive talent, but none of it is at running back, I don't think, not consistently. And I think their offensive line kind of hampers them along those lines right now. So I don't know that Mount Pleasant necessarily has a Monte Baldwin to go for 200 or 300 yards like that. But also, Donaldson Christian offensively does some things that you wouldn't expect out of Paul Wade. They threw the ball a lot and well against CA a couple of weeks ago. And I think they're going to be able to make some plays in the passing game. Enough. Maybe not a bunch, but enough. So I've got Donaldson Christian in this one. It should be a pretty good ball game, though.
I think so, too.
East Hickman at Loretto.
Yeah, I think Loretto takes care of business here, as they have all year so far.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I think the Mustangs continue to roll here. City Cats, County Cats.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a deceptively good football game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way, but I'm going to have to go with the City Cats in this one.
The City Cats are Tullahoma, right?
That's
Because
correct.
The County Cats are Lawrence
County.
County.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, I've got the City Cats as well then. Overton at Independence.
Yeah, again, I think Independence is going to get some things right in this game. They've got an opportunity to really do some things offensively that they have not been able to do yet. I think that's what's going to happen.
I think Independence gets their second big win in the last 3 weeks. Spring Hill at Columbia Academy. I'm sorry, Columbia Central. Excuse me.
I think this is going to be a good football game, better than some people might want it to be, but I'm going to go Central in this one.
Yeah, I have.
It's hard to take away 16 times.
It's
right?
tough to pick against 16-0 in the last 16 meetings. Yeah, going with the Lions here. Summertown at Waverly.
Yeah, I just can't see the Eagles getting it right this week. I got to go Waverly.
Same here. And Summit at Ravenwood.
Man, I really would like to take Summit in this one, but Will Hester's just got his team playing really well right now, so I got to go with him.
I think Ravenwood is just methodical enough offensively to kind of break you down. I like Ravenwood in this one. That's going to do it for Week 7. Chris will be at Clarksville Academy, Columbia Academy. Follow him at Chris Yao 14. I will be at Spring Hill, Columbia Central at Moped _sports. See you next week.